We're reset on a new turn. Still being Sparta. We got lucky there, I guess. Naxos revolted again, as did Mytilene. And we got our leaders picked, and now I've got to decide on my strategy. Now, the problem is I'm not getting the string of actions that I feel like I need to get a victory here. I'm still at negative 20 victory points. Finishing Athens off isn't enough to win it. So I'm having a hard time trying to come up with something that might be able to get me close. That might at least, you know, redeem the... I don't think I can make up for the losses I took early. But what kind of pace would I have to be on to hit that 150? And that's really what the question comes down to. I'm only going to get 20 points if it gets to here. Right now it's 40, and it's just decreasing. The amount of points that I get for a surrender is not going to be a large percentage of my victory. I think you probably want to go for a victory right off with Athens. See if you can, which is ahistorical, to go for the killer blow at the beginning of the war. Somewhat disturbing that is actually the strategy, but I could be wrong. Anyway, the Athenians picked the same strategy again, which is going after my allies. So, you know, I've got to move through what I can and try to score as many points as I can off sieges, I guess. Chances are my leader will give me better than a 50-50 opportunity to get points. That's the best I can see. Money doesn't seem to be an issue. Another worry is if we both get tired out, that's not a good thing. Because once the armistice starts, then we're not going to have as many turns to score. We need to score. Athens is first, and quite possibly their only action is directed up here against Leucas. I don't have enough ground forces to take that because I would have to denude all my hoplites out of here. So I can't just move down here and sail off and take care of it. So I got to walk up through the gauntlet again. And again, it doesn't pass through Thebes, or near Thebes, to get up to Larissa. And then I got to walk back down and pick up my boats. I think. See, here's the problem, is I have enough boats elsewhere, but I can't travel with them over land. I don't have any boats up here. The boats that I have here, I could conceivably get to here, but then there's no mixed routes to get me down here. This is all waterway or land. So I think it's impossible to do it any other way than to march up here, grab one guy, bringing my 3 with me, and then march all the way back down, possibly taking losses at Declia, and then set sail to try to go around the coast. Now, when I do that, there's a possibility of an interception here as well. One thing I may want to consider with my Spartans is trying to get a boat. Although I don't know how legally I can do this. I don't know if I can make an objective my own space. I think so. Someplace like here, which would prevent the transferal of riches down this way. And then they'd have to go through here. This is enemy territory. This is enemy territory all up here. So that would cut $1,000 off the Athenian money. I don't know if I terribly want to do that, though. Chances are I'll have Athens, and it's not like they've been able to spend all this money that they've been accumulating. So it might be better to leave them alone. Again, weird thinking patterns go into this game. Alright, well, I'll take care of that movement and probably end up catching up soon after this. That was something of a failure. Walking through here, not only I did not get a skirmish, but I got a big roll, an 11, which meant there was a fight here. And it ended up being a draw, actually, which means both sides lose 1 strength point. And then even though the Spartans are destroyed, the Athenians go home. They've actually recaptured their territory, though, by getting those Spartans out of there. But that means no victory points changed hands for that. The reason it was able... So these guys had 2 extra strength points plus 1 for their leadership. Gives them a +3. But the Spartans had a +2 for having 50% Spartan hoplites or more. And that was our final roll. We got a tied number there, so we each lost. So that puts things back over to my Spartans. Let's see if I get an action. Now, I only fail on a 6, unlike in the 2-player game. So I will get a chance to make another move to try to take out something else. And you know, it might be appealing because Athens is so weak to make a swing up into here to grab something like that. I got to look at the defensive rules. Let's see. What is that? That's Plataea and Panactum, and neither of them are listed in this special defensive thing, which means Athens will still be forced to do some kind of annoying stuff. So I may well try to pick up... I have to go for my closest forces, so I'll have to take a lot of infantry out of Sparta anyway. I can't just use Corinthian forces for this. It's kind of neat in the multiplayer game. If I bring the Corinthians along and they're one of the players, then they get score for whatever battles they're involved in. That's why you have to differentiate between the different allies in that case, the forces that they have, which could be difficult. You'd probably want to use all kind of new counters for that. Alternative possibilities, well, I could not take this because I need the Navy to get to the island there. Everything coming out of there is water, so that's not going to be easy for me. I can't take Athens itself, and I don't want to. I'd only get 40 points for that. So yeah, trying to score some points down here might be worthwhile. Now, in order to get to Pegae with navies, we had to do that whole go up, come back down, gather our fleet, move down to here. Here we got intercepted. And forgot to roll the skirmish, but there was going to be a battle, right? I'm not sure. Oops. Yeah, there is going to be a battle. I'll leave the battle here. I got to check the skirmish, just make sure nobody gets killed. Okay, nobody got killed in the skirmish. But my roll for the battle, the Athenians had less ships. They only have 4 ships, and this is just a pure naval battle here. And the Spartans have 6, so they're a +2. The Athenians have +2 for their leader, but also +2 for majority Athenian fleet. So we again have a draw, and all these forces go in here. Now I got to keep track of what I've lost. I've lost a navy and an army for rebuilding purposes, both Athenian. Because obviously they can only rebuild what they want. And now we're back to the Spartans, who get another action. And I'm just going to keep taking them because I've got better chances of getting some victory points the more places I siege. However, I did lose my navy, which sucks because that would have been very useful towards expanding into some of the islands. I may have used up all the Spartan navies, but the Corinthians still had a navy. So I went up, grabbed them, sailed around here, hitting key locations along the route. Boonk. There was the Athenian navy here. We had a skirmish didn't go to a battle. Both sides actually lost a unit. And then continued sailing all the way up to Byzantium, which if we siege that, that blocks off the Black Sea route. That is the prime choke point, and something that is going to cause problems, I believe. Proconius is here, so holding that is going to force the Athenians to do a defensive maneuver that way, but they lose some cash for that, and it also makes it possible for me to knock them out. I don't really have an ability to knock them out right now. Well, I may have the ability, I don't have the desire, because I will lose the game if Sparta wins at this point. If I were playing the two-player game, well, Athens wouldn't have probably done what they were doing, and Sparta wouldn't have done what they were doing. So there we have that. Let's see if the Athenians really can't do anything. They're going to need 3H and 3N. And I have the boats, but I do not have enough hoplites. I think I only have one over here available to me. So I can't take an action. So I'm not even going to roll for them. I'll keep rolling and see if the Spartans get another action. And they do. Okay, exciting things. So I forgot to spend my money for some of them. I'm down to 2,000 after picking up the entire Theban army. I slipped by this guy again safely, marched up through here, Pharsalus, up to Larissa. Well, I didn't quite make it to Larissa. At Pharsalus, a check was made. There's an interception. The skirmish didn't result in anything, but we got enough forces. There's going to be a battle, which means the Spartans are going to get double victory points. They're going to get the big victory points for the battle, plus potentially the victory points for taking Larissa, because I've got all these hoplites. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. The +1 for having more cav. So I get 10 to 3. I'm going to do 6 hits to them. That wipes this out. And I, of course, take no losses. And that is a 10-point victory for me and some SCI differential here. And then I can continue on to my goal, which is over here. Now, if I had been clever, maybe I would have taken a goal up here. But I still have other forces I can move up to here to siege those cities if I get lucky enough. How many leaders do I have left? I only have 2 left. I don't think I can keep taking turns after I'm out of leaders. They are a requirement. The last 2 leaders were intercepted on their way up to Thebes going through here. So we handle the go home and then the mechanics of the end of the turn stuff. I'll come back and talk about that at the end. I resolved the sieges. Every single one of them went over to Sparta, which made me look up a roll because we went off the end of the chart. You can't go off the end of the chart, but boy do I have a load of money adding up here. 70 victory points. 70 victory points coming in this turn. The fact that this went so way down for them, that's dangerous. That puts them down to a 1 bellicosity. That makes it very important that I switch sides and now start winning with the Athenians. The reason being, if I got one more, if I get 1 victory point swing next turn, 1 success overall net, the game would be over. I would be dropping their bellicosity to 0. Athens is going to surrender. So it's absolutely important that we have this switch side mechanism. Otherwise, the game system just would fall apart here. You'd have no chance of winning. You have to do better. You have to swing over and take control of the side that's losing to prevent it from losing the war. Now, I got really lucky this turn. There's no question. If I'm, 70 points a turn for 5 turns is 350 points. I'll be able to win easily if I can do that. Yeah, that's not going to happen. In fact, what's going to be really painful is I'm going to be in charge of the Athenians, and there's going to be a fairly large Spartan army everywhere, and not much of an Athenian one. I can only rebuild 3 of these units, whereas the Spartans haven't lost anything. Well, that's not true. They lost something. They lost to a skirmish at least. So, their army, though, is going to rebuild larger than it was, whereas the Athenian one is going to actually be smaller than it was at the beginning of this turn. But if I can turn them around and score, some big point turns with them, that'd be great too, and then I can swing the balance the other way. You got to be really careful though, because there's so much subtlety going on here. If I do really well with the Athenians for a turn, that might boost them up to, say, a 5 or 6. Well, no, it won't. It'll put them up to like a 3 or 4 bellicosity. Chances are we'll get the armistice then, right? And then I lose those turns, however many the armistice lasts, which is random. And more than that, if an armistice doesn't happen because I'm not able to drive these guys down low enough, I'll be keeping him in a period where I have a plus to my chance of getting him, but he's very weak in terms of his bellicosity, so I have to be careful not to knock him out of the war. Weird sort of balancing act you got to do in this game. Result of all that balancing act, I don't feel like I'm anyone, right? I'm some dude who's advising and becoming glorious with every victory, whatever. But in terms of the nations, I just don't feel any connection with them, which I'm probably not supposed to. That's not what it's representing, but it feels weird to me. It's like I'm not playing what feels like a war game so much as this intricate puzzle that's got so many weird little pieces that are different from anything I've seen before. And, I'm not saying I understand it fully, not by the long shot, but I can see something here that I don't see in any other solo games that I've played. And I'll try to remember to say things along those lines in the review, just because I know some people don't watch the playthroughs. Anyway, enough babbling. Let's get to the end of the turn. Now I have a counter-mix difficulty. The forces here have to go home. His -1 strategy determines that. I have to leave one hoplite from Sparta there, and there aren't any more. I don't have the appropriate change, and I don't have anywhere that I can draw them from. The way they're spread out, there's no way that I can make that change. I'm going to just leave a cav here, which feels wrong as hell. But I don't feel like I'm limited by countermix. I know that, and I don't know what else to do. So legally, I can only leave one unit there, since it's illegal. Since there's no possibility of breaking this down, I have to send that all back home, and then these go back to where they belong, and I'll figure out where those go. Italian League, with everything in revolt and so much attack happening in Attica here, only netted 150 bucks, including the big negative for losing the Hellespont. On the other hand, I did get the extra 1,000 for this. I can still trace this sucker through here. I didn't leave any units. This is within zones of influence, which I think is kind of crappy. I think if you've got zones of influence, it should block it, but whatever. And then we come to some problems. The first one is, hey, I know I'm not going to be Sparta. Why should I raise troops? The hell with that shit, right? And they got tons of money, but let's not give them any troops. Okay, that's fair enough. But then another side. This one bothered me before when I saw it, and I think I'm going to play it how I saw it before. The non-playing side may only build units of the same kind and in the same number as those which were lost during the game turn. Okay. If more than 3 SPs were eliminated, choose randomly to determine which ones will be replaced. Well, it could be one of each, or whatever. That doesn't even make sense. Do I randomly maybe just get a hoplite? Anyway, I cannot replace my cav, because this is all allied cav, and allied cav can only come in at Larissa. If Macedonia was my ally, some would go there. Shit. I've been forgetting this with Sparta. Is there a Macedonia here? Yeah. Some of the Spartan stuff should be up here. I think it's one at each. I don't know. This is really a horrible way to handle things. It would be better if they specified Macedonia and such not and Persia right here in the base set, because place SPs at Pella until 2 are present. Okay, I did that. I removed the ones from Thebes. But anything else here about Macedonia? You know, how about hoplites? Did I move any hoplites? Probably. Those would go to Syracuse. That's not an issue. I can't place there. Okay, so I'm going to play it how I played it before, which is that I can take all of these. Yeah, that helps me as a player, right? But it didn't last time. I can rebuild all of these, in fact, must, for the 600 bucks, which it conforms in part with the rules. Should I look this up in the playbook? You know what? When the rules are contradictory seeming, I don't trust a playbook to help me. But okay, let's look it up. Paragraph number 35. Maybe it'll say, wow, the rules were really badly written here, and this is what we meant. I know Avalon Hill used to do that. I've never seen Victory Games pull anything like that, though. See here, all they talk about is the only Spartan losses were 3 naval units. Well, that's the simple case. I need something that covers the contradictory rule here. Why if more than 3 SPs were eliminated? What if 3 were eliminated and there's 3 different types? You know, the actual rule states something different. It states only one of those types can be built. I'm following through. And to a large extent, I think it actually hurts the player, although not in this case, to have their opponent able to build 3 full strength points, you know, each time. In this case, it helps me, but so be it. Okay, now we're at armistice and surrender, and we can do this pretty quickly. So we get 3 points of bellicosity, putting us all the way up to 12. And they lose 6, putting them down to 1. There ain't no armistice. We both have enough money. I mean, you know, I'm complaining about Athens' money. They're still at 13,000 talents. You know, they're not going to run out anytime soon. So we don't hit an armistice. There isn't a surrender or anything like that. And that is going to push us into turn 6. After I remove all those ravage markers. Or a little maybe inconsequential gripe I have about the sort of concept behind the switching sides and everything. So if you end up losing the game, supposedly Thebes or Persia or some other power other than Sparta or Athens ends up being the dominant force, as was historically the case. Great. Except that doesn't really make sense. The game could end early in like an Athenian victory or something like that. And in particular, what the player's doing seems to be causing the fact that the player is trying to maybe drag the game out so that they can gain enough victory points. To me, that means that Thebes probably will rise as the major power in the area, because Athens and Sparta are going to be so damn worn out. Anyway, that's just, you know, such a minor thing. It's just a throwaway phrase in the book, essentially. But the world is dangerous for me now. Alcibiades, as an event, is now over in the is now over with Sparta. He switched sides. He can switch sides 4 times in the game. He can end up back as an Athenian leader, and the next time he switches, he goes over to Persia, which has essentially the same effect as being here. The next time he goes back to Athens as a leader, and then the final time he wanders off to Egypt or something and fails to come back ever again. But here's the problem. I rolled an attack Athenian ally, which is in effect because Alcibiades adds 1 to the strategy die roll. It becomes very likely, especially with a leader like Lysander here. But I've got a defensive problem. Let's see. I may have more than one. No. Okay, so I have the last one, which is the Syracuse one, which means I'm not going to be following this pattern. I'm going to be doing the attack Athens pattern. And that's terrible because Athens can fall now because the Hellespont is controlled. So that's kind of got to be my prime concern, is to clear the pathway there, to take the Spartans out of there. What I have to do so, well, I don't necessarily want to send too big a navy out that way, because my navy is useful at generating victory points, and you know, it doesn't really help me to prolong the game if I'm not able to generate a fair amount of victory points. But I do want some numerical superiority, at least if a skirmish or some such happens. So I'll probably send 2 or 3 of my ships out that way to handle that aspect. Athenians are off to a bad start. I was trying to bring a cav over here to Sicily. I couldn't get it into the space I wanted to. I don't think. I'm not sure I can leave forces behind, which would cause the problem if not. But next turn I could move the cav then, if that was the case. The problem is I got caught here. I got caught a couple of times with skirmishes. I got caught here in a battle with 5 of these. It was actually an even battle, +4 to +4, because of the leadership and everything. But I ended up losing the battle. That cost me an SCI point. Oops. It's not over yet, but it's right on the edge. If I can't come out positive this turn, I'm in trouble. I lose. Chance the Gardener over on my site pointed out the game box, which you should go visit. All the videos are better organized there. Pointed out that I'm making an error here, and it seems to be the case. So in the operations segment, you don't start ravaging spaces until the army is fully collected. So anytime that I go sailing around all of the Peloponnesus to pick up more units, that becomes an assembly space, and I haven't actually started ravaging at that point. I may have trouble remembering to do things right because it's kind of burned into my head now, but just as a correction. Coming kind of right down to the wire here in terms of whether or not Athens survives after that defeat down here. I've laid 2 sieges down. Now, Sparta couldn't come up with the troops to launch another attack, so they're out for a while. After I laid these down, and I used 2 troops each to try to slip by this cav just in case bad things happened. I didn't get intercepted, I don't think. From there on, I started sending my leaders out to go around this way to pick up forces up here in Corcyra, try to capture stuff here. Another option that wouldn't have been terribly safe either would be to leave from Athens, suffering possible interceptions across here. I don't know which the shortest route would be, but I'd have to take at least one. To get up here and then march by land. Yeah, that's land. To here and then down and try to clean up some of these rebellions. Vaguely that would serve a purpose, but the thing I'm most worried about is my SCI, which kind of requires that I throw some sieges into play. So we got a bunch of stuff in the, it goes back in the cup, and a couple of things that are showing back up before the battle phase happens. I gotta figure out where these guys go. I got a problem because Corinth is under siege. I don't think they can show up back there while it's under siege. Well, I had maximum success with the Athenians here. I ended up capturing the 2 areas I went for, and the one that the Spartans went for did not fall into their hands. I've also cleared up this problem. So my SCI is actually positive at this point. It's +2. That means I go up by 1. The Spartan one is -2, so they start dropping down. Point-wise, I pull in 15 more points, which puts me up to +85. Am I at a point where I could win? Well, 200 divided by 7 is less than 30. So Not quite. Yeah. But maybe if I win enough battles. So 200 divided by 7 is equal to 28. That would put me up to, say, 110 as a total. So I'd have to get 40 points. That's a lot to get in battles, so I can play this out a little longer. But the problem, of course, is I may not be Athens next turn. The SCI is at the point where it's completely random which side I have. I can deal with either side, but right now Sparta has some problems. For one thing, Corinth is gone. And, well, here's what's weird. By a strict reading of the rules, I can do this. I had one lost Corinthian navy, and I can rebuild it, and it goes here into Sparta. However you want to read that. I don't feel like they should be that heavily penalized by that. But losing Corinth is potentially a big issue, I guess. I don't know. And we are not at an armistice. We have tons of money. Why do we have so much money? Well, maybe that I'm screwing up and not charging all the time. I wouldn't put that past myself. But also, the armies just aren't that big. You know, Athens is making, what, 3,500, making 4,500 for that. They're back 1,500 for their usage, but they didn't move big armies around. That's my doing. But then, on the other side, you know, Sparta doesn't have to pay for their full army when they move it. Now, maybe I forgot. I don't know. They got like 5,000 bucks. They're in no trouble there, even though they've got a lot of this territory taken. So maybe I'm forgetting to do that. I wouldn't be too surprised. And now the ravage markers come off, and we're ready to go again. And, you know, I mean, Athens has this humongous revolt going on. But it just, and another one running through here. These are actually not even connected. But it just doesn't have too much influence on my play. And again, maybe it's because, you know, it's just hard to remember to do that pay movement thing. There's a lot of little bits to the game. And it just hasn't sunk in the way, say, it did in unconditional surrender, which also has that kind of you got to pay to move your units. On this, though, it's a little different. I don't know. It's a different feel for how it is. All right, and there's just so much to take care of. So, you know, you have to figure out, hey, do I have all the troops that I need that I want to use? And then I'm pretty sure the Athenians didn't spend much this turn. I'm not so sure with the Spartans. I think I took a fair amount of forces from here, which should have been, you know, close to 2,000 bucks, which is about what they make. Okay, so we managed to keep control of Athens. And the random event moved Macedonia to our side. Because the SCI was in our favor, no new rebellions spread. We should be okay for that. The Spartan strategy is going to be attack Athens no matter what. But the fact that Sicily is under our control forces that. This may be the best thing about having the forces in Sicily, is that it forces Sparta to keep hitting us. The money's not that big a deal. We're not getting it, but we don't need it, obviously. We have a lot of wealth in hand. So now I get to choose what the hell I want to do. And I don't have huge amounts of forces, obviously. I built up my navy. I want to score points. That's still my goal. I'm still too far to force Athens to try to surrender or you know, anything of that nature. So I just want to start racking up more points. Okay, well, after Athens got sieged, we managed to spread out. A couple of our leaders got caught trying to slip out of Athens. There's Cav there, so that can happen. But we've dropped sieges in a few places, one of which is here at Price, which is interesting because this triggers a 10 hoplite 1 cav army being let out. But 1, 2, 3, 4. I only have like 5 hoplites available. I have the cav, but the rest of my army's here and I can't free them up. So that's going to push a situation where the Spartans, did I say Carthage in there? The Spartans have to make an attack next turn there. I don't know how much that really helps or hurts. It's a smaller attack than the attack here, but this one's kind of screwed with my mojo in terms of being able to launch enough attacks to be happy. So, after I throw these guys back in their cup, nothing else was lost there. I think something was, actually. I have the feeling I lost an infantry in a skirmish or something cutting down here that I sent 2 out. I'm not sure. Anyway. Oh, no. In Athens. I lost an infantry and a cav in Athens. They got caught in a battle when the space got moved into by the interception rules, which, you know, it's not like you have an opportunity to intercept in this. There's a chance of armies meeting. That's all that it is. So I guess we're going to handle those sieges and see what happens. The sieges I performed over here succeeded. Obviously the Spartan one failed because they can't take Athens. It's kind of a bonus to have them attack. You get some victory points off of it, but my attack on Melos, and I think this was Cleon who attacked. I'm not sure. Yeah, I think it was a +0 leader. You may not want to use him on sieges. He's only got a 50-50 chance of taking the city. He might have been better used sailing out here to cope with some of the rebellions. The reason being, I failed, and that's -15 victory points for that, which means I end up at 0 for the turn. It also reduces my SCI, but that's okay. I don't care much about that. I don't care which side I am. I just want to make victory points, and getting a 0 on it doesn't really help me. Okay, let's get to the start of turn 8 here, after a kind of disappointing last turn. Some weird stuff happened here. First of all, I didn't change sides, although there was a chance of it happening. Oh, no chance of rebellion, good. Except through the random events. The random event was a plague in Athens, and that actually happened. It has a requirement that the Spartans had to be nearby, and they were sieging Athens. I was lucky. I left just to make sure. I was lucky I left a ravaged marker under Athens. Not in any intentional reason, I just noticed it. That helped confirm my memory from last night. And that meant Pericles is dead. I lost 1/3 of my hoplites in Athens, I believe. Yeah. And I had to pay about $800 or talents because I have so big a navy. That's to recuperate the crew members for the navy. That they can be anywhere. They have to pay for that. For strategy, I ended up getting attack Athenian ally, but it doesn't matter. It really doesn't, because I've got 2 emergencies. I've got this one here, and I've got the Sicilian one. Sparta is going to keep trying to do something because of those. And as long as I've got forces here in Sicily, they'll keep attacking me in Attica. But I may be able to take some of the pressure off that with the attack here, and the fact that this is held by a navy means it actually gets to withdraw rather than have to even fight. So that ends up, you know, using up the Spartan activity without generating any chance of them getting a victory, really. So that's pretty impressive in my book. Speaking of which, I got to figure out my own strategy. My army's been kind of depleted, as has my navy, and unfortunately there's a big enough Spartan navy. I can't get to my navy. My navy's here in Sicily. I just can't get it. I have to keep sending forces over to see if they make it there, and that's troublesome. Of course, I had to go to Thebes to pick up my army. The risky part was running through Corinth there. On the way back, I ended up fighting a battle, and this sucks for Athens. The interception was successful, and the skirmish die roll, well, no matter what, with the size of the force coming down, there was a battle, and the Athenians just got overrun. So that's 15 victory points gone, and an SCI point. Not that I care too much about the SCI right now. And now I'm down here, and when this battle gets resolved, it's going to be that I just drive that fleet away, because I have no navy there, and I wasn't required or allowed to send my navy there, which was what I needed to fight that. Now the navy's busy patrolling here, preventing me from slipping the Athenians in to get the boats. For Athens themselves, I grabbed this one, to get a battle. I don't think there are enough Spartan hoplites to do anything left. Got 4, 5, 6, 7 of them left. It's going to take 12 to attack Athens, so that's not going to happen. Well, the game should have ended earlier, actually. But anyhow, this was a terrible turn for Athens. They got bad omens right after Sparta's first pass. Boom, it's done. Well, or right in time for Sparta's first pass or whatever. It's done. These things grew, and I've been forgetting to charge Athens for bellicosity on those suckers. Now, there are 28 of them, which is 2 bellicosity, but I've got a -2 SCI, so I would be losing no matter what this turn, even with my cheating. I lost 15 points for the one battle and 15 points for a failed siege. So my total is 55. I'm the one who surrendered. So if this was a multiplayer game, my whole faction would get no points. They would lose all their victory points. All their positive victory points, I guess. But yeah, I've lost here, and that's a shame. I still don't know, what one has to do, because you really can't let one side get that weak, especially Athens, because of this problem. Now, I just let that go out of hand, and that is really where the problem is. I think I had a hard time getting victory points on any kind of schedule that was reasonable. If we look at the turns where I got victory points, here it's -30. Okay, I got a +70, a +15, and a +20, but otherwise, I didn't gain any. If I got like 20 a turn for 10 turns, that's 200 points. So if I can always keep that flow kind of positive and fair, it's okay. I felt okay at my 85 points, to tell you the truth. I felt like I still had a shot, but I was neglecting this completely, which would have required some of my attention to cut back. Those are devastating to Athens. And the Athenian, here's the real problem. The Athenian NPC doesn't deal with this shit. He ignores them. So that means whenever they're in charge and I'm racking up points with Sparta, I got to be real careful not to sink Athens too early. It's probably not going to happen in the first 3 turns. It takes a while for this rebellion to develop. Anyway, clearly I don't have a grasp on how to win, either how to make that first 3 turns a good chance of winning, although I think the answer there is if you can switch to Sparta, if you can lose victory points quickly enough with Athens in the first turn, that you got to gain victory points quickly enough with Athens in the first turn, switch to Sparta, and then play to lose with Sparta. You've got a shot of the Athens attack Sparta happening, and that's going to be a 1 in 6, 1 in 6. There might be some modifiers to this first one, or to the first die roll. You've got some chance of winning the game by losing with Sparta. Not much of one. The other side, I'm not so sure. I think you've got to maintain a balance between the powers, which is kind of a weird situation. I'm really intrigued by the puzzle of this game, and that's not usually the case for me in solo games. This has presented a more interesting challenge. The same way that after the Holocaust, whether you play it solo or opposed, presents an interesting challenge. I suspect there's something really weird you've got to do to win this game. And once that kind of pattern is out, that you can figure that out. Just like, the Victory Point games ones and stuff too, have this pattern that you have to discern, but it feels like that's easier. You can do it incrementally. With this, I feel like there's some leap of faith you have to make, like with after the Holocaust, or some great insight that you have that you probably won't see very easily. And that makes it a more interesting game in some ways. Maybe I'm wrong, though. Maybe I'm seeing all there is to see. I doubt that. All right, I'm going to load this one up.